Strategic betrayal isn't a sin, it's your survival guide. Ask the last Byzantine emperor, who chose mercy while Ottoman sappers mined Constantinople's walls. When gunpowder ripped the city open, his virtue drowned in 50,000 corpses. Forget what you've been told about power. Your biology is sabotaging you. Neuroscience shows threat of betrayal shuts down your decision-making 27% faster than physical danger. You're literally wired to freeze when you should strike. Machiavelli knew this. His prince, Cesare Borgia, wasn't about philosophy. He was a field manual carved from fallen empires. For 500 years, elites whispered his tactics. One queen survived 17 assassination attempts by turning her court into a spy hive. A Prussian warlord redrew Europe's map in 7 bloody weeks because he attacked before breakfast. Now, their weapons are yours. This is your Borgia moment. Are you ready to see reality from Machiavelli's point of view? Are you ready to be face to face with history's greatest strategists and deceivers? This is your call to arms. The cost of hesitation, your influence, your autonomy, your legacy, the cost of action. Keep watching as I reveal the best teaching from Machiavelli's The Prince. What if everything you've been taught about manifesting your destiny is a lie? What if luck isn't a force to beg for, but a storm to master? Let me ask you directly. How many times have you crushed yourself under the weight of, if only my rivals hesitated, if only the throne were mine, if only Fortuna smiled at me for once? That agony, that desperate bargaining with a universe that doesn't care, is what Machiavelli called Fortuna. And here's the brutal truth. The human mind clings to the illusion that luck controls destiny because it's easier than facing the terrifying power you hold. Consider the Byzantine emperors, who prayed for divine intervention as Ottoman cannons destroyed Constantinople's walls in 1453. They called it faith. Machiavelli would have called it surrender. But what if I told you there's a mission hidden in your despair? Every time you blame bad luck, you weaken the neural pathways governing decisive action. Chronic helplessness diminishes the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for strategizing solutions. You're not just stuck, you're eroding your power to escape. This is Fortuna addiction, romanticizing chance while your agency atrophies. Psychologists call it locus of control externality, the belief that outside forces dictate your life. It's poison, the antidote, virtu. Not virtue as saints preach, but the Roman ideal of vigorous force, relentless, focused agency. Machiavelli wrote, "Fortune is the arbiter of half our actions, but she still leaves the other half in our control." This isn't philosophy, it's a cognitive toolkit. Before, you're reactive, Fortuna's puppet, like the Persian kings who saw rebellions as divine curses. After, you become the storm maker. Your decisions carve reality like a scalpel. So how do we rewire? Through strategic self-sovereignty. Start here. Track one decision daily where you default to wait and see. Then force action within 24 hours. Even microscopic action. Why? Neuroplasticity. You're rebuilding neural highways around your amygdala's fear responses. Take the Borgia method, Machiavelli's archetype of ruthlessness. It converts anxiety into tactical energy. You'll stop waiting for battles and start choosing them. Imagine your kingdom collapsing. Fortuna whispers, pray for a miracle. Your task, shift from beggar to conqueror. Apply virtu. Audit resources like Cortez contemplating Aztec gold. Cut non-essentials with Spartan discipline. Negotiate from strength, not shame. When Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico, he burned his ships, eliminating retreat as an option. His men, trapped between jungle and sea, fought like cornered wolves. This is where most fail. They confuse ruthlessness with cruelty. Let's dissect that lie. Machiavelli didn't theorize, he observed. Cesare Borgia, his prime exemplar, never prayed for control of Romagna. He seized it through ruthless calculation, studying terrain like a chessboard, eliminating dependencies, even loyal allies, and acting before crises erupted. As historian Garrett Mattingly observed, Machiavelli's genius was treating politics as a system of measurable forces. Your mind is that system. So ask yourself now, What empire could you build if your excuses burned to ash? Fortuna is an unstable lover. She seduces the hesitant and devours the lazy. But virtù is the fire in the forge. It doesn't ask for lighter burdens. It demands stronger shoulders. When you've mastered your mind, betrayal becomes a scalpel, not a grenade. But first, you must learn to wield it without hesitating. That's where we go in the next chapter. What if your deepest loyalty is your greatest weakness? What if trust isn't sacred but ammunition? Let's confront the silent killer of empires, blind trust. That noble instinct to believe in words and handshakes. The very thing that destroyed kingdoms from Carthage to Constantinople. Remember Hannibal? His father made him swear eternal hatred for Rome over an altar of sacrifice. That oath bound him like chains. For 15 years, he crossed the Alps and slaughtered legions, only to be betrayed by his own Carthaginian Senate, who starved his armies of support. Why? Because he trusted their loyalty would outlast their fear. Machiavelli's verdict echoes through history. Men forget the death of a father more quickly than the loss of inheritance. Your biology conspires against you here. Neuroscience reveals betrayal registers in the brain as physical pain. That's why we avoid its shadow, but avoidance is a slow suicide. Consider the Persian kings who ruled through satraps, trusted governors gifted vast provinces. Within a few generations, these loyal men carved the empire into distinct realms. Why? They exploited the oldest vulnerability, the ruler's need for sleep. While kings dreamed of harmony, satraps forged private armies. This is the paradox. Trust lubricates society, yet in power dynamics, it's the crack where rebellion takes root. Your amygdala screams to avoid the betrayal's sting, but true sovereignty demands you study its anatomy like a surgeon studies disease. Strategic betrayal isn't cruelty, it's preemptive preservation. Take Cesare Borgia at Sinigaglia. His mercenary captains, Orsini and Vitelli, pledged allegiance while plotting his murder. Borgia knew. So he staged a feast, lavished them with wine and praise. Then, at his signal, soldiers strangled them all. Gruesome, yes, but Machiavelli defended it. He knew how to use cruelty well. Borgia grasped what Persian kings forgot. Trust must be weaponized. Those captains weren't allies, they were chess pieces. By eliminating them before their betrayal, he saved thousands from civil war. Here's where your mind rebels. But I'm not a tyrant. Neither was Elizabeth I. Yet when her cousin Mary Stuart, once welcomed as a family, plotted with Spain to seize England's throne, Elizabeth signed her death warrant after 19 years of hesitation. Why wait? Because hope is Fortuna's twin. We pray traitors will repent until the axe is at our neck. The Tudors understood. Betrayal delayed is disaster multiplied. Your task isn't to become Borgia, it's to adopt his clarity. Map every alliance by asking, if this person betrayed me tomorrow, what would it cost? If the answer chills you, you found a vulnerability. Now, the pivot. Betrayal's power lies not in execution, but in threat. Venice perfected this. Their Council of 10 invited ambassadors to expensive dinners in golden palaces, while spies noted every word. When allies overreached, Venice didn't attack. They leaked proof of the ambassador's private insults to his own king. Result? Traitors recalled, alliances shifted, and bloodshed avoided. This is strategic betrayal refined, letting others believe you'll burn them if they stray. As Sun Tzu wrote, supreme excellence is breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. So ask yourself, what Carthage lives in your life? What Hannibal oath binds you to sinking ships? Borgia's lesson isn't about daggers, it's about detachment. View loyalty as the wind, useful when filling sails, fatal when navigating by it alone. Ruthlessness, remember, is merely the courage to see relationships as they are, not as you wish them to be. But how far should that ruthlessness extend? When does strategy become savagery? That's where we turn next, to the Borgia blueprint. What if mercy is the luxury of the doomed? What if true power lives in the courage to be cruel? Let's shatter a dangerous myth, that kindness and power can share a throne. History's graveyards are stuffed with rulers who believed it. From the last Romanovs whispering prayers as Bolshevik bullets pinned their bodies to cellar walls, to the Aztec emperor Moctezuma, who welcomed Cortés as a god while Spanish steel sharpened in the shadows. Their fatal flaw? Confusing mercy for wisdom. Machiavelli cuts through the fog. A prince must not mind incurring the charge of cruelty for the purpose of keeping his subjects united and faithful. This isn't savagery, it's strategic economy. Every drop of mercy spent where ruthlessness is demanded compounds like debt, and the interest is paid in blood. Consider Tokugawa Ieyasu, the architect of Japan's 250-year peace. When his rival, Hideyoshi, died, leaving an infant successor, Tokugawa faced a choice: spare the boy and risk civil war, or erase the bloodline. He chose the latter. The child and his mother were executed. Potential warlords bowed or vanished. Critics called it monstrous. Tokugawa called it mathematics, one death to prevent 10,000. Neuroscience explains why we recoil. Our mirror neurons fire when witnessing pain, binding us to empathy. But sovereignty demands you override that impulse like a general silencing, a sentinel's warning cry. The amygdala's moan must not reject the prefrontal cortex's calculus. Now, the Borgia method dissected. Cesare didn't enjoy cruelty. He weaponized it. When Romagna's bandits plagued his lands, he didn't offer reforms. He had his lieutenant Ramiro de Occo dead in the town square, his body left like a devastated candle. Brutal, undeniably. But the banditry ceased overnight. Machiavelli's insight. He committed these cruelties at a stroke. Afterwards, he never again transgressed. This is mercilessness as communication, a single deafening strike that renders future violence unnecessary. Contrast this with France's King Louis XVI, whose half measures against revolutionaries, exiling a few nobles and forgiving rioters, only fed the guillotine's hunger. Indecision is a sharpener for your enemy's blades. Your greatest resistance here isn't moral, it's biological. We're wired for reciprocity. When Genghis Khan surrounded a city, he'd offer surrender with honor. But if gates remained shut, he'd raise pyramids of skulls. Survivors spread the message. Resistance multiplies suffering. Submission limits it. Khan grasped what modern psychology confirms. Consistent severity trains compliance faster than erratic kindness. But note, this isn't rage, it's ice. Borgia's killings lacked passion. They were administrative, like burning blighted crops to save the harvest. So where's the line between strategy and atrocity? The Renaissance painter Raphael gives us the test. When Pope Julius II commissioned murals for the Vatican, he demanded Raphael depict his enemies suffering in hell. Raphael complied, but painted the Pope's own face on a damned soul. Even Julius laughed. Why? Because self-awareness sanctifies severity. Ruthlessness without reflection is butchery. Ruthlessness with it? Statecraft. Elizabeth I embodied this balance. After crushing the Northern Earls' rebellion, she ordered 800 executions, but spared the common conscripts. Only the ringleaders were exposed to public scorn. Her lesson: severity must be surgical. Exterminate the root, but never burn the soil. As she wrote in her journals, the buck must die so the herd may graze. Ask yourself now, what overgrown kindness in your life chokes your sovereignty? What Louis XVI lurks in your hesitation? Mercilessness isn't the absence of conscience, it's conscience in service to consequence. But how do you justify the first strike? When does preemption cross from wisdom to sin? That's the razor we walk next. What if waiting for proof of betrayal is the greatest moral failure? What if striking first is the ultimate act of mercy? History's most devastating wars share one root: honorable hesitation. The pause between seeing the knife and feeling its blade, where conscience battles survival. Take Constantinople in 1453. Emperor Constantine V knew Ottoman sappers mined the walls. He saw the tunnels, yet he delayed flooding them, fearing it would provoke Sultan Mehmed. The result? Gunpowder tore open the Theodosian walls, and 3 days of slaughter drowned his mercy in blood. Machiavelli's law is ironclad. The prince, who waits for war to begin before preparing, has already lost. Your morality is admirable, but biology betrays you. When a threat appears, cortisol floods your prefrontal cortex, narrowing vision to fight or flight. You become a rabbit frozen in torchlight. Sovereignty demands rewiring this impulse, seeing preemption not as aggression, but as compassion. Consider Otto von Bismarck. When Prussia's rivals encircled him in 1866, he didn't wait for declarations. He invaded Austria before their armies mobilized. Critics howled. Bismarck silenced them with results. The war lasted 7 weeks, casualties were minimal, and Prussia emerged dominant. His secret? He studied chess, not ethics. The great questions of our time will not be settled by speeches, but by blood and iron. This is the preemptive mind, treating diplomacy as reconnaissance, kindness as camouflage. Neuroscience confirms why we resist. Our default mode network craves social harmony, equating conflict with failure. But power obeys darker physics, as Rome proved when it destroyed Carthage after victory, salting the earth so no threat could rise again. Mercy to enemies is cruelty to your people. Elizabeth I embodied this at Tilbury. With the Spanish Armada approaching in 1588, she rode before her troops in armor, declaring, "I know I have the body of a weak woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king." She didn't pray for storms. She unleashed fire ships at midnight, scattering the invasion fleet. Preemption isn't brutality, it's tragic arithmetic. Sacrifice one to save 10,000. The Tudors knew. A single spark unextinguished burns the forest. Now the pivot, preemption's power lies in timing, not early enough. Borgia mastered this. When his mercenary captain Ramiro Dorco grew too popular in Romagna, Borgia didn't wait for rebellion. At dawn, he had Dorco beheaded in the piazza, his body split in two. Villains wept, then paid their taxes. Machiavelli called it necessary cruelty, a single stroke preventing prolonged suffering. Your task isn't to swing the axe, it's to recognize when the whetstone starts singing. Map every threat on a timeline. If I act now, what pain? If I wait, what carnage? This is the Borgia method distilled. First, you study the shadows, then you measure mercy, and then you strike silently. But here's where philosophers stumble, confusing preemption with paranoia. Cortés burned ships to force advance, not retreat. The difference? Preemption eyes the horizon. Paranoia stares at shadows. When Henry VIII beheaded Anne Boleyn on fabricated charges, he didn't prevent betrayal. He became its architect. So ask yourself, what Constantinople walls are cracking in your life? What Mehmed mines beneath your foundations? Preemption is the scalpel that carves new futures, but only if your hand is steady. Yet how does this translate beyond thrones and battlefields? How do you wield this power without becoming the monster you fear? That's the final transformation. What if Machiavelli scrolled your feeds? What if likes are the new lances, and your silence is surrender? Let's shatter the illusion. You're already playing the game. Every unreturned email, every strategic oversight in a team meeting, every polite evasion when a colleague checks your plans, these are moves on a board Borgia would recognize. The battlefield just traded marble halls for chat rooms. Consider Cardinal Richelieu, France's 17th century puppet master. He didn't conquer with swords. He bankrupted rivals by manipulating grain prices and forged alliances through intercepted letters. His weapon? Information asymmetry. Fast forward to now. When a tech founder leaks false acquisition talks to spike a competitor's stock, or a politician tests unjust policies through burner accounts, they're wielding Richelieu's playbook. The tools changed. Human nature didn't. But here's where you bleed power. Believing modernity demands morality. The Medici Bank collapsed not because they were ruthless, but because they pretended they weren't. They lent to kings with one hand while funding rebellions with the other, until contradictions strangled them. Machiavelli warned, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Your amygdala screams, this is cynical. Neuroscience disagrees. Strategic deception activates the prefrontal cortex. The same, region calculating chess moves. Ethical? Debatable. Effective? History's verdict is clear. Let's translate Borgia to bytes. Venice's Council of 10 suborned, extorted, and monitored ambassadors. Today, imagine silencing a rival by anonymously sharing their deleted tweets with investors. Not sabotage, recontextualization. The Tudor court survived by planting rumors at taverns. You seed narratives through algorithm-friendly vague posts. When Elizabeth I needed plausible deniability, she used cutouts like Sir Francis Walsingham. Your version? Letting a burner account accidentally reveal a competitor's weakness. The goal isn't malice, it's controlled turbulence. Yet the deepest power lies not in creating chaos, but in containing it. Tokugawa Ieyasu pacified Japan by forcing rival warlords' families to live as honored guests in Edo, hostages in silk cages. Modern application: build collaborations so failure costs your partner more than you. When an entrepreneur demands exclusivity, counter by requiring his portfolio companies to use your software. Mutual self-destruction, but you hold the detonator. As Sun Tzu wrote, keep your friends close and your rivals in debt. But what if your greatest threat isn't the rival you see, but the ally you trust? Consider the Huguenots. French Protestants welcomed Catherine de' Medici's compromise until her daughter's wedding became the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre. Thousands were slaughtered because they traded vigilance for validation. Your version: the co-founder who sues after you share equity in good faith. Machiavelli's cure remains brutal. Measure loyalties by interest, not oaths. Map every alliance on two axes. What do they gain if you rise? What do they gain if you fall? If the second outweighs the first, you're not partners. You're a prey. Now, the ultimate pivot. Realpolitik isn't about becoming cruel. It's about seeing clearly. Borgia burned in the end, not because of his ruthlessness, but because he ignored fortuna when illness struck. Your fortuna? Market crashes, pandemics, algorithmic shifts. Virtu means preparing while others prey. When Dutch traders dominated the 17th century, they didn't just build ships, they invented stock markets and insurance. They weaponized uncertainty. So ask yourself, where are you playing checkers when the world plays chess? Where does your Medici mask slip? The prince, who adapts poison into medicine, inherits the future. So what are you waiting for? Seize the control of your future right now by adopting Machiavelli's realpolitik and become a modern-day prince yourself. The game hasn't changed in 500 years, only the board. Venetian spies traded quills for keyboards. Tudor whispers became viral posts. Borgia's calculated strikes now hide behind corporate mergers and legal loopholes. But the stakes? Still, life and death. Your influence, your autonomy, your legacy. Machiavelli wasn't a monster. He was history's sharpest surgeon of power. He dissected the raw mechanics of human ambition and handed us the tools. Virtu over fortuna. Ruthlessness over ruin. Clarity over conscience. This isn't about becoming a tyrant. It's about refusing to be prey. Tokugawa didn't crave blood. He craved stability. Elizabeth didn't execute Mary for pleasure. She preserved a nation. They grasped the unforgiving math. Mercy to enemies is cruelty to those you protect. So ask yourself now, where does your inner Medici hide? What noble lie weakens your hand? The prince who masters these lessons doesn't wear a crown. They shape reality itself. Your next move begins today. Seize it with both hands. So let's finish this video like Machiavelli would, with a quote. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must, therefore, be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Thanks for watching.